The rain has been falling for so long that it no longer feels like weather, but like the natural rhythm of the world. Each drop against the window is steady, soft, and patient, as though it has been falling since before you arrived and will continue long after you are gone. Outside, the road glistens, dark and slick, reflecting the pale light of the street lamps like a river of oil. The sound is endless, a quiet drumming that erases silence, replacing it with something gentler, almost protective. It is in this sound that you find yourself walking, slowly, along a gravel path that crunches beneath your shoes despite the soaking dampness. Each step is muffled by waterlogged earth, each breath carrying a faint mist that rises in the cold. Ahead, through the drifting curtain of rain, there is a house. It does not seem abandoned, though it should. Its walls are dark with age, its roof sagging slightly under the weight of years and weather. The windows, streaked with water, glow faintly as if lit from within, though no lamp or fire should logically burn at this hour, on this road, in this forgotten place. You pause at the gate. It is iron, old and rusted, leaning at a crooked angle, yet when you push it with the lightest touch, it swings open without resistance, as though it has been waiting. The house looms larger as you approach. Its presence is not threatening, not exactly. Instead, it carries the feeling of something that has been patient for too long, something that has learned to wait through decades of storms. The rain runs off its gutters in steady rivulets, splashing into the grass that grows too high, swallowing the path leading to the door. You place your hand on the handle. The wood beneath your fingers is swollen with damp, soft but not fragile. The door yields easily, creaking open with a sound that blends seamlessly with the storm outside, as if the house itself has joined in the music of the rain. Inside, the air is colder, though not in a way that makes you shiver. It is the kind of cold that settles deep in the walls, in the stone beneath the floors, in the beams that hold up the roof. The smell is faintly metallic, faintly sweet, the scent of old wood that has absorbed water for too long. The floorboards creak under your weight, not in protest but in recognition, as though you are not the first to cross them, nor the last. The room you enter is dim, the only light coming from a lamp that should not be working, its bulb glowing weakly beneath a crooked shade. Shadows lean long across the walls, stretching as if they are trying to reach you, but never moving closer. The wallpaper is faded, patterned with flowers that have lost their color, outlines barely visible beneath the grime of years. You step further in. The rain outside seems distant now, muffled by the walls, though you still hear it as a constant murmur, soft and steady, never gone. The house has its own silence, thick and heavy, broken only by the occasional drip of water falling from the ceiling into a small, unseen puddle. There is a chair by the window. Its fabric is worn but intact, the wood of its arms polished smooth by hands that once rested there again and again. You can almost picture someone sitting in it, night after night, watching the rain slide down the glass, listening to storms long past. A small table rests beside it, holding a lamp and nothing more. Dust lies thick on the surface, yet there is a faint circular mark, the kind left by a cup or a glass long since removed. You feel as though the house remembers. It is not alive in the way that a person is alive, but it carries memory in its walls, in the way certain boards bow beneath your feet, in the faint scratches on the doorframe where something, perhaps someone, once pressed too hard. You move into the hallway. It stretches longer than expected, narrow and low-ceilinged, lined with doors that are all closed. The wallpaper changes here, darker, patterned with vertical stripes that make the corridor feel tighter, more compressed. A single bulb hangs from the ceiling at the far end, swaying slightly though there is no breeze. Its light flickers, steady for a moment, then dimming, then steady again, as though caught in a rhythm of its own. Your footsteps echo faintly, but the sound does not return to you in the same way it should. It feels swallowed, absorbed into the wood and plaster, leaving only a muted suggestion of movement. Somewhere behind one of the doors, there is a sound, soft, like the shift of fabric against wood, or the creak of a chair leaning forward. It stops when you pause. You open the first door on your left. The room inside is bare except for a bed with no sheets and a cracked mirror leaning against the wall. Your reflection stares back at you, warped and blurred by the fractures, your features split into pieces that do not quite align. Behind you, in the reflection, there seems to be a shadow that should not exist. Taller than the doorframe, darker than the corner it stands in, but when you turn, the room is empty. Only the rain continues. The second room is different. It is filled with books, though they are all damp, their pages curled and stained with water. Some are open on the floor as though dropped in a hurry, others stacked haphazardly on shelves that sag under their weight. When you reach for one, the paper disintegrates at your touch, leaving only a smear of ink across your fingers. You wipe them on your clothes, but the ink does not fade. The smell in this room is stronger, a mixture of mold and something sweeter, something that lingers at the edge of recognition. You leave the door half open as you step back into the hallway. The bulb overhead flickers again, and this time it stays dim longer, humming faintly as though struggling to hold on to its light. The sound from deeper in the house returns. A shift, a faint dragging, the almost imperceptible rhythm of breathing. You pause, waiting, but the noise does not come closer. You continue. The hallway narrows until it opens into a wider space, a staircase leading upward. The steps are steep, carpeted once, but now stripped bare, the wood showing through in long, splintering lines. At the top, you see another faint light, as though another lamp has been left burning. The rain sounds louder here, pressing harder against the roof, rushing through gutters clogged with leaves. As you climb, the sense of memory deepens. The house feels less like a place and more like a collection of echoes, each wall carrying the faint impression of someone who once leaned against it, each step remembering every foot that ever pressed its surface. You feel it in the air, as though you were moving not just through space, but through time, layered and folded. At the top of the stairs, the light comes from a bedroom. Its door is open, swaying slightly on loose hinges. The room is small, its bed neatly made, though the sheets are yellowed with age. A single candle burns on the nightstand, though there is no match, no lighter, no explanation. Its flame barely moves, even though you can feel the draft from the open door. You step inside. The smell here is different again, less of wood and mold, more of dust and something faintly metallic, like iron left in the rain. You sit on the edge of the bed, and for a moment everything is still. The rain outside, the house around you, even the candle seems to hold its breath. Then, quietly, the door shuts. Not quickly, not with force. It simply swings until the latch clicks into place, leaving you inside. The candle flickers once, then steadies again, and in the silence that follows, you hear it. A voice, not loud, not clear, but present, whispering from somewhere just beyond the reach of the flame. It speaks words you cannot understand, syllables broken by distance or by time, yet the rhythm is unmistakable. It is the rhythm of rain. The whisper does not rise or fall, it simply continues. A sound that is not language, not truly, but patterned enough to feel like thought. It drifts in and out of your awareness, like listening to a voice through water. You sit on the bed, hands resting on your knees, and notice how icily the rhythm of it merges with the steady dripping of rain against the window. Each drop slides down the glass, each syllable folds into the sound. The candle trembles, its flame tilts, bends toward the far corner of the room as though drawn by breath. You follow it with your eyes and see nothing, only the deepening dark, layered upon itself until the corner seems too heavy, too full. You blink, and it feels as if the blackness shifts, just slightly, like fabric folding over itself. The voice pauses. For one long moment, there is only the sound of rain, the faint creak of the house, the low hum of the bulb in the hallway beyond. Then, slowly, the whisper returns closer now, almost at your ear. The air against your skin cools with the suggestion of a breath, but when you turn your head, there is only the empty room. You rise from the bed, the wood groaning beneath your weight. The candle flares brighter, burning higher for a moment, before steadying again. Your reflection in the window catches your attention. It looks back at you, pale and blurred by streaks of water, but you notice something disquieting. It moves slightly out of rhythm with you. Not dramatically, but enough that when you raise your hand, it hesitates a second too long before lifting its own. The voice stops. Silence folds into the room, broken only by the patter of the rain. Then, from somewhere below, perhaps the first floor, perhaps deeper, you hear another sound. A slow drag, like something heavy being pulled across wooden boards. It continues, steady and patient, as though the house itself is rearranging its memories. You open the door. The hallway beyond is dim, lit only by the bulb that flickers and hums. Yet you feel as if the light has shifted since you first climbed the stairs. The walls lean closer now, pressing in, their shadows stretching thin and tall. You step into the corridor, and the floor sighs beneath your weight. At the far end, a shape passes. Not a figure exactly, not enough to name, but a movement, as though the light itself briefly thickened and moved aside. You stop, waiting. The bulb flickers, then steadies. The corridor is empty. Only the faint drag from below continues. A sound that belongs to no one, echoing from rooms that should be still. You descend the stairs. Each step creaks low, and the deeper you go, the more the rain returns to your ears, louder now, more insistent. It beats against the windows in a rhythm almost human, almost like a hand pressing against the glass. The sound soothes you even as it unsettles you. It tells you the house is not all silence that outside. The world continues, unchanged, endless. At the bottom, the hallway stretches longer than before. The doors on either side seem multiplied, as though the house has unfolded into new space while you were upstairs. You walk slowly, running your fingers along the wall. The wallpaper peels beneath your touch, curling back to reveal older layers beneath. Patterns of flowers give way to stripes, stripes to dark paint, paint to bare wood, as though the house has worn many faces across its years. One door is open, only slightly, just enough to suggest that it has been left ajar by someone who never left fully. You push it wider. Inside, the room is lit faintly by another lamp that burns where no electricity should run. The light glows across a table set with a single chair, a book open upon its surface. You move closer. The pages are blank, not torn or faded, but empty, as though they had never been written. Yet when you lean close, you hear words, faint, whispering words, not from the room, but from the paper itself. The book murmurs in the rhythm of rain, though its pages remain white. You close it gently. The sound ceases. The drag echoes again, closer now. Perhaps in the hall you just left. You step back, listening. It stops when you stop. You breathe slowly, carefully, and the house seems to wait with you. You return to the corridor. The lamp in the room flickers behind you, then goes out. Darkness folds itself into the space, leaving only the steady hum of the single bulb further ahead. You walk toward it. The sound of dragging has ceased, but in its place, another rises. A faint knock, rhythmic, soft, as though coming from inside the walls. 3 times, pause. 3 times again, you follow it. The sound grows clearer as you reach the end of the hall, where another staircase descends. This one is narrower, steeper, leading down into a cellar. The air grows colder as you step onto the top stair, the scent of damp stone rising to meet you. You descend slowly, each creak of the steps folding into the rain above. The cellar is larger than it should be. Its walls are stone, wet in places where water drips through cracks, leaving trails of green moss. The floor is uneven, the boards warped and dark. At the far end, there is a door. It is wooden, heavier than the others, banded with rusted iron. From behind it comes the sound. Not a drag now, not a knock, but breathing. Deep, slow, steady breathing, in rhythm with the storm. You move closer. The air grows colder still, until you can see the faintest cloud of your breath when you exhale. The door hums faintly against its frame, as though the sound behind it vibrates through the wood. You press your ear to it. The breathing stops. Silence presses in, heavy, crushing. Then, softly, from the other side, a whisper, "Welcome back." The words are not spoken in a voice you know, nor even in a voice that seems human. They are stretched, distant, shaped more by the house itself than by lips or tongue, yet you understand them. And with that understanding comes a sensation that you have been here before. In this place, at this door. The knob is cold beneath your hand. You turn it, and the latch clicks softly. The door swings inward, revealing only darkness beyond. Not the darkness of a small, enclosed space, but of something vast, something without end. The sound of rain fills it, echoing as though falling across an endless expanse. You step through. The air is different here, thicker, as though you have entered a dream. The floor is no longer stone, but soft earth, damp beneath your shoes. The smell is of wet grass, of soil turned by water, though you are still beneath the house. Shadows stretch endlessly, taller than trees, wider than walls, shapes that seem to move only when you are not looking. In the distance, there is a light, faint, golden, wavering. You walk toward it. The earth shifts under your feet, softening, pulling slightly at your steps, yet you move forward all the same. The rain is louder now, falling in sheets you cannot feel, yet its sound drowns all else. The light grows nearer until you see it is another lamp. It rests on a table, identical to the one you saw upstairs, glowing with the same weak golden hue. Beside it is a chair, and in the chair sits a figure. Its face is turned away, hidden in shadow. Its hands rest on the table, pale and long-fingered, motionless. The figure does not breathe, does not move, yet you feel its awareness pressing against you, as though it has been waiting. You step closer. The figure tilts its head slightly, the movement slow, deliberate, as if acknowledging you. The rain falters for one brief instant, silence cutting through the sound, before resuming again, harder, faster. The figure speaks, but no lips move. Its voice comes from the walls, the floor, the air itself. "You came back," it says. "You always come back." You blink. The lamp flickers. The chair is empty. The table is bare. The figure is gone. Only the rain remains. You stand in silence, listening, until you realize the sound of footsteps has begun behind you. Soft, slow, steady, following the rhythm of the storm. You turn. The cellar is gone. You are once again in the upstairs bedroom, sitting on the bed. The candle burns low. The reflection in the window is watching you, though you are not moving. Its hand lifts slowly, pressing against the glass, leaving a smear of darkness, as though the rain itself has turned black. And then, once again, the whisper begins. The storm followed you onto the road, stretching endlessly along the dark horizon. The windshield wipers drag back and forth, steady in their rhythm, barely keeping up with the sheets of rain that fall like curtains across the highway. The headlights cut only a small tunnel through the night, their glow blurred by water and mist. Everything beyond them vanishes into darkness. The hum of the engine is constant, but you can feel it straining beneath your hands, each mile heavier than the last. The road is slick, black, and endless, curving through forests that press too close on either side. Branches sway and groan in the wind, their movements strange, almost like arms waving in warning. The sound of the rain is louder than the tires, louder than the motor, a steady anchor that drowns all else. The fuel gauge dips lower than you expected. The needle hovers just above empty, trembling slightly with every bump in the road. You know you need to stop, but the highway has been nothing but shadows for miles. Then, in the distance, a light. It is faint at first, golden and hazy through the storm, but as you approach, it resolves into the glow of neon. Letters flicker weakly against the rain. D-I-N-E-R. The sign buzzes, humming in a rhythm that matches the beat of the storm. Below it, a single gas pump leans at an angle. Its paint chipped, its numbers faded with time. The parking lot is nearly empty. One car sits by the far corner, old and rusted, its windows fogged from within. You pull in slowly, tires hissing on the wet pavement, and park near the entrance. The diner itself looks unchanged from decades ago. Stainless steel siding, windows streaked with rain, a door with a round glass window glowing faintly from the inside. When you open the door, a bell rings. The sound is sharp, cutting through the storm, though it seems too loud for the small space. Inside, the diner is warm. Not cozy, not welcoming, but thick with the scent of coffee, fried food, and something metallic beneath it all. The booths are upholstered in red vinyl, cracked in places, patched with tape. The counter stretches long and gleaming, lined with stools that have been polished smooth by years of use. A waitress stands behind it, her uniform faded, her smile fixed. Her hair is pinned neatly, though a few strands hang loose, plastered to her face by humidity. She greets you with a nod, her voice quiet, almost swallowed by the rain against the windows. Sit anywhere you like. You choose a booth near the window. The glass is streaked with water, blurring the view of the storm outside into shifting shadows. The waitress brings a menu without being asked. Its pages are laminated, curling at the edges. The text faded until many of the words are unreadable. Coffee, you say, and she nods, as if she already knew. The other patrons are quiet. At the far end of the diner, a man sits hunched over a cup, his hands wrapped tightly around it, though the steam has long since gone. He does not drink, only stares into the dark surface. Behind him, another booth is occupied by two figures you cannot quite make out. Their heads are bent close together, whispering in voices too low to hear, their faces turned away. The waitress returns with your coffee. The cup is chipped, the liquid inside black and thin. The steam rises faintly, though the smell is stronger than it should be, bitter and sharp. You take a sip, and it burns your tongue, though the taste is muted, almost empty. She watches you for a moment, her smile fixed, before turning back to the counter. The rain against the window grows louder, harder, until it feels as though the glass itself is shaking. You glance outside and notice the rusted car is gone. You did not hear it start, did not see its headlights, yet the space it occupied is empty, the puddles on the pavement rippling as though something heavy had only just moved. Inside, the man at the far end finally lifts his cup. He drinks slowly, his eyes never leaving the black surface. When he lowers it, the cup is still full, steam still curling upward, unchanged. The two whispering figures stop speaking. Their heads turn slightly, almost in unison, though their faces remain hidden. You look back to your coffee. The steam has thickened. It twists into shapes as it rises, shapes that almost resemble words, almost resemble faces. You blink, and the steam is gone, leaving only the dark liquid below. The waitress returns. "Hungry?" she asks. Her voice is the same as before, calm, rehearsed, as though she has spoken the same word countless times. You nod without thinking, and she places a plate before you. The food is steaming, though you did not order. A plate of eggs, toast, and bacon, perfectly arranged, perfectly untouched. You pick up your fork. The eggs tremble slightly, the yolks shifting though you have not touched them. You lower the fork again. The waitress smiles, turns, and walks back to the counter. The clock above the counter ticks, though its hands do not move. The sound is loud, louder than the rain, louder than the hum of the neon outside. Each tick is heavy, dragging, stretching time into long, uneven pieces. The man at the far end finally stands. His chair scrapes across the floor, though no sound follows it. He walks toward the door, his steps slow, deliberate. The bell does not ring when he leaves. The door does not even seem to move, yet he is gone, swallowed by the storm outside. The two whispering figures rise next. They turn toward you, and at last you see their faces, or rather, the absence of them. Their skin is smooth, featureless, pale as porcelain. They walk past you in silence, and when they reach the door, it opens without sound. The rain rushes in for a brief instant, cold and sharp, before the door swings closed again. You are alone. The waitress is gone. The counter is empty. The booths are empty. Only the rain remains, pressing against the windows, drowning the silence. You stand, the floor beneath you creaking faintly, though the sound feels delayed, as though your weight reached it seconds after you stepped. You walk to the counter, to the register. It hums faintly, though its screen is blank, its buttons worn smooth. You tap one, the drawer slides open with a sound like a sigh. Inside, there is nothing but water, pooling, rippling, as though rain is falling within it. The bell rings. You turn, startled, though no one stands at the door. The sound lingers, echoing, until it blends into the rhythm of the storm. You look back at your booth. The cup of coffee is gone. The plate is gone. The table is bare, dry, as though no one ever sat there. The bell rings again. This time, when you turn, the door is open. Rain pours in, splashing across the tiles, though it does not spread. It pools only at the threshold, rippling, waiting. Beyond the doorway, the highway stretches into darkness. No cars pass, no headlights glow. Only the neon sign flickers above, its letters buzzing faintly in the storm. Diner, diner. Over and over, until the word itself feels wrong, stripped of meaning. You step outside. The rain soaks you instantly, heavy and cold, but it feels lighter than the silence inside. You walk back to your car, its surface dripping, its windows fogged. When you open the door, the seat is already wet, as though someone has been sitting there, waiting. You glance back at the diner. Its windows are dark now. The neon sign flickers one last time, then dies, leaving only the storm. The building seems smaller, less real, as though it were already fading into the night. You turn the key in the ignition. The engine hums, steady, familiar. The headlights cut their tunnel of light into the storm. You drive forward, the road stretching endlessly ahead. In the rearview mirror, the diner is gone. The rain continues. And as you drive, you realize the fuel gauge has not moved. The needle hovers just above empty, trembling slightly with every bump in the road. The highway stretches into shadow, and you understand, with a quiet certainty, that the diner will be waiting again, somewhere further on, where the rain falls hardest. The rain followed you into the town. It ran in rivers along the curbs, gathered in dark pools beneath the streetlights, drummed softly against the roofs of buildings that leaned close to one another, sharing the weight of the storm. The streets were nearly empty. A few cars crawled by, their headlights blurry halos in the mist, their tires whispering across the wet pavement. Most windows were dark, curtains drawn, but one building still glowed. It was not a shop, not a diner, but something quieter, heavier with time. A library. Its stone steps gleamed with water, its doors framed in wood that sagged with dampness, its tall windows glowing faintly from within. You paused at the edge of the sidewalk, looking up at it. There should not have been a library open at this hour. The storm was too heavy, the night too late, yet the light inside was steady, golden, inviting. You climbed the steps. The rain hissed against the overhang above the doors, softer now, though still constant. You pushed one of the doors open, and it swung easily, too easily, as though it had been waiting. Inside, the air was warmer, heavy with the scent of paper and dust, the faint sharpness of old ink. The floor was marble at the entrance, polished smooth, though dulled with years of footsteps. Tall shelves stretched beyond, rising like walls into shadow. Their rows lined with books that leaned against one another, spines faded, letters rubbed nearly blank. A desk stood near the door. Behind it sat a man, though he looked more like a statue in the dim light. His posture was rigid, his eyes fixed on the surface of the desk where a single open ledger lay. He did not look up when you entered, but his hand moved slowly across the page, writing words you could not see. The sound of the rain dulled further once the door closed behind you. It became only a faint murmur, a distant memory. The silence of the library was thicker, layered. Each step you took across the floor seemed muffled, as though the sound was caught by the books themselves, absorbed into paper. You moved slowly between the shelves. The rows stretched on, longer than they should, the ceiling rising higher as you walked. The lights above flickered faintly, their glow soft and uneven, creating pockets of shadow where the shelves seemed to vanish. You reached out to touch a spine. The leather was cracked, flaking beneath your fingers, yet warm, as though the book had only just been handled. You pulled it free. The title was unreadable, the letters faded into nothing. You opened it. The pages were blank. Yet, as you stared at them, words seemed to flicker faintly, only for a moment, before vanishing again. Shapes, lines, curves of letters, as if the book remembered being written, but could no longer hold onto the memory. You replaced it carefully, though the space on the shelf did not seem to match its size anymore. The books shifted slightly, leaning together, closing the gap. Deeper in, you noticed someone else. A figure at the far end of the row, standing between shelves. Their head tilted, their hand tracing lightly along the spines, though they never pulled a book free. Their movements were slow, deliberate, dreamlike. You stepped closer, but when you reached the end of the aisle, the figure was gone. Only the books remained, silent and waiting. You wandered further. The shelves curved now, bending into paths that looped back on themselves, though you did not notice until you had walked them twice. The books were different each time, new colors, new sizes, though all still faint, their words unreadable. At last, you came to a reading table. A single lamp burned there, its shade tilted, its glow casting long shadows across the wood. 3 chairs surrounded it, though only one was occupied. A woman sat hunched over a book, her hair falling forward, her hands resting on the pages. She did not move, did not turn a page, did not even seem to breathe. You waited, but she did not look up. You leaned slightly closer, trying to see the book. Its pages were black, not written, not inked, but entirely black, as though they had absorbed all the light around them. You blinked, and the woman was gone. The chair was empty. The lamp flickered once, then steadied. You sat in her place without meaning to. The black book remained. You touched it, and the surface was cold, colder than stone, colder than rain-soaked iron. You pulled your hand back, and a faint sound rose around you. Whispers, not from one voice, but many. Not from the room, but from the books themselves. They murmured in rhythm, in unison, though the words were too soft to grasp. Pages fluttered faintly on distant shelves, though there was no breeze. Covers shifted, boards creaked, the faint rasp of paper against paper filling the silence. The whispers grew louder, pressing closer, though never clear. You rose from the chair and turned, but the shelves behind you were gone. Only more tables stretched out, lit by more lamps, each with a figure seated at it. Some leaned close to their books, others sat rigid, staring forward. None of them moved. You walked past them. Their eyes followed you, though their heads did not turn. Their books remained open, their pages unreadable. Yet you felt the weight of the words pressing from them, heavy, thick, impossible to hold. You reached another desk, this one larger, raised on a platform of dark wood. Behind it, another librarian sat. He looked identical to the first, his posture the same, his eyes fixed on a ledger. He wrote slowly, steadily, though no ink marked the page. He did not look up, not when you approached, not when you stood directly before him. His hand never stopped moving. You glanced at the ledger. Its pages were covered not in words, but in lines, thousands of lines, thin and endless, like rainfall drawn across paper. Each line stretched downward, breaking only to begin again. You stared until the lines seemed to move, shifting, flowing like water. The librarian's hand paused, his head lifted slowly, his eyes meeting yours. They were not dark, not light, but empty, blank as the pages of the books. His mouth did not move, but his voice filled the space between you. Find your place. The words pressed into you, heavy, undeniable. You stepped back, but the desk loomed larger, the librarian taller, his ledger spreading wider across the platform. The shelves rose behind him, higher than before, endless. You turned and walked quickly, though the aisles bent again, curving, looping back. The whispers grew louder, chasing you, rising from the books in waves. The lamps flickered, their glow dimming until the tables and figures vanished into shadow. At last, you saw the entrance. The doors glowed faintly ahead, the marble floor gleaming beneath them. You hurried forward, footsteps echoing too loudly now, though each step lagged, delayed, as if sound itself could not keep up. You reached the doors and pushed. They did not move. The whispers swelled, filling the air, rising into words you could almost understand. They repeated the same phrase again and again, though always just out of reach. You pounded against the doors. They shuddered beneath your hands, not from your force, but from something pressing against them from the other side. Then, suddenly, the noise ceased. The silence was total, crushing. The rain returned, faint, muffled, but steady. You tried the doors again, and this time they opened icily. Outside, the storm was unchanged. The steps gleamed with water. The streets shone beneath the lamps. The night was quiet. You looked back. The windows of the library were dark. The glow was gone. You stepped into the rain. It fell steady, calming, though heavier now than before. You walked down the sidewalk, the sound of your footsteps mingling with the storm. You glanced back once more, but where the library had been, there was only an empty lot, overgrown with grass, puddles spreading across the dirt. You blinked, rain stinging your eyes, and you understood, quietly, that the library was not gone. It was only waiting, somewhere else, on another street, in another storm. The storm had quieted by the time you reached the edge of the forest. The rain still fell, but softer now, threading down through the leaves in thin silver strands. The world smelled of wet earth, of moss heavy with water, of pine needles that glistened in the faint light that reached between the branches. The road ended here, swallowed by grass and roots, leaving only a narrow trail that disappeared into the trees. You paused at its entrance, listening. The sound of rain was steady above, but beneath it was another sound. The soft trickle of water running along hidden roots, the faint shift of branches swaying high overhead. The forest seemed to breathe. You stepped onto the path. The ground was soft, damp beneath your shoes, muffling your steps. The trail wound forward, curving gently, its edges blurred by ferns and low plants that pressed too close. The trees leaned over it, tall and dark, their trunks striped with lichen, their bark slick with rain. Each droplet that fell from their leaves landed with a rhythm that seemed deliberate, as though the forest itself were keeping time. The deeper you walked, the quieter the world became. The sound of the road faded behind you, replaced by the hush of rain and the occasional distant cry of an unseen bird. The air grew cooler, the light dimmer, filtered through the canopy into a green haze. You breathed in the dampness, the rich scent of soil, and felt it sink into you. After a while, you noticed the path narrowing. The ferns pressed closer, the trees leaning heavier, their branches knotting overhead, until the trail felt more like a tunnel. You followed it, bending slightly beneath the weight of the branches, brushing wet leaves from your shoulders. The sound of water grew louder here, dripping steadily into hidden pools. The trail bent again, and you saw the clearing. It was small, ringed with trees that arched inward as though protecting it. The ground was bare, damp earth exposed, darkened by rain. In the center stood a stone, tall, weathered, its surface rough and uneven, streaked with moss. It leaned slightly, its edges softened by time. You stepped into the clearing. The rain was lighter here, the canopy catching most of it, letting only scattered drops fall. The stone loomed taller than you expected, its surface marked with faint lines, scratches carved deep but worn too smooth to read. You reached out and touched it. The surface was cold, slick with water. For a moment, it felt like skin. You drew your hand back. The forest was quiet. The rain fell softer now, almost delicate, like the faint tapping of fingers. You stood still, listening, waiting. Then you noticed the path again. It led out of the clearing, narrow, pressed between two leaning trunks. You followed it. The trail was the same as before, wet earth, ferns pressing close, branches weaving overhead. It bent once, twice, and then opened again into a clearing. The same clearing, the same stone, the same scratches carved into its surface. You stopped, staring. The air seemed thicker now, the silence deeper. The rain fell harder for one brief moment, then softened again, returning to its steady rhythm. You turned, looked back at the path you had taken. It was gone. Only trees stood there, their trunks pressed tightly together, their bark dark with water. The only path was forward. You stepped past the stone and into the trees again. The trail curved, winding as before, the air heavy with dampness. You followed it until the clearing opened once more. The stone stood waiting, tall, silent, dripping with rain. This time, the scratches seemed deeper. You stared at them, trying to read their shapes. They twisted, curled, formed patterns that almost resembled letters, almost resembled faces. The more you looked, the more they shifted, until they no longer seemed carved but moving, pressing outward from within the stone itself. You turned away. The rain fell harder again, pattering against the leaves, hissing against the earth. The air smelled different now, sharper tinged with something metallic. You found the path and followed it again. The forest darkened as you walked. The canopy above grew thicker, the light fading into green-black shadows. The ferns pressed harder, their leaves brushing your arms like fingers. The rain became a distant murmur, almost lost beneath the sound of your own footsteps. The clearing opened. The stone stood taller now. Its surface gleamed, wet and dark. The scratches sharper, deeper, more deliberate. At its base, the earth was disturbed, soft, as though something had been buried there or unearthed. You did not step closer this time. You stood at the edge of the clearing, watching. The rain dripped steadily from the leaves above, striking the stone in faint rhythms. The forest was silent otherwise, too silent, as though holding its breath. You turned, searching for the path, and saw it waiting. You followed it again. The forest looped, bent, twisted in ways that made no sense. The trail always the same, the branches always reaching lower, the shadows always stretching longer, the clearing always waiting. Each time, the stone grew taller. Each time, the scratches deepened. Each time, the earth at its base seemed more disturbed, more unsettled, as though something beneath it had begun to shift. By the fourth time, the stone loomed twice your height. The scratches carved across its face were no longer random but deliberate, forming shapes that resembled figures, long, thin, faceless. They stood side by side, arms pressed close to their sides, their heads tilted slightly as though watching. By the fifth time, the clearing smelled strongly of iron, sharp and heavy, clinging to the air like a stain. The rain did not wash it away. By the sixth, the earth at the base of the stone had split. A hollow formed, dark and wet, as though the ground itself had opened. You stood at its edge and felt cold air rising from it, colder than rain, colder than night. You turned quickly, walking faster, following the path again. The forest closed tighter around you, the trees bending lower, the ferns higher, until the trail felt like a throat swallowing you whole. Your breath came louder, echoing in the damp silence. The clearing opened again. The stone now towered above the trees. Its surface was black, wet, gleaming. The figures carved across it countless now, stretching in rows that climbed higher and higher, each faceless, each tilted in the same silent watch. The hollow at its base yawned wider, deep enough now that you could not see its bottom. The cold that rose from it was steady, pulsing, almost like breath. You stepped back. The forest behind you had vanished. No path, no trees, only the clearing and the stone. The rain fell harder now, pounding against the earth, rushing down the sides of the stone, spilling into the hollow below. The figures carved across its face seemed to ripple in the water, their forms shifting, bending, as though they might pull themselves free at any moment. You stood frozen, watching, until you felt the earth shift beneath your feet. The hollow widened. The cold rose higher, wrapping around you like hands. The whispers began. They came not from the forest, not from the stone, but from the hollow itself. Countless voices, rising together, speaking words you could not understand, yet heavy enough to press against your chest. They grew louder, merging with the rain, until the sound was all there was. You closed your eyes. When you opened them, you were back at the beginning. The road stretched behind you, empty and dark, the forest before you, the trail narrow, the rain falling steady through the trees. You stood still, listening. Somewhere ahead, faint, through the sound of the storm, the whispers waited. And you understood, quietly, that the path did not end. It only looped forever. The rain has not stopped. It never truly stops. It falls steady, endless, folding itself into every place you have wandered tonight. The house that remembered, the diner that waited, the library that never closed. The forest path that looped all of them carried the same rhythm, the same quiet anchor. The rain, it is there still, outside your window now. A soft curtain against the glass, a patient tapping along the roof, a whisper that has no beginning and no end. You can hear it if you are still enough, if you let the silence stretch wide around you. It is steady, it is gentle, it has followed you through each place, carrying you deeper, leading you back, guiding you here. The faces, the whispers, the echoes, they fade when you close your eyes. They drift into the same distance as the storm, always there, but never pressing too close. They are memories now, folded into shadow, waiting quietly at the edge of thought. What remains is only the rhythm of water on glass, the rhythm of drops sliding down wood, down stone, into earth, the rhythm of breath, your breath, slow and steady, matching the sound. The world narrows here, softens here, eases into something quieter than thought. Each sound is further away now. Each shadow is softer, gentler. You do not need to walk anymore. You do not need to watch anymore. The stories have already unfolded. The paths have already turned. The rain will keep falling, as it always does. It will keep watch when you no longer can. Let it. Let the sound settle into you, slow and even, steady as a heartbeat. Let the weight of the night close around you, not heavy but protective, carrying you further into rest. There is nothing left to follow, nothing left to fear, only the endless rhythm of the storm. The house fades, the diner fades, the library fades, the forest fades, the rain remains, and as it falls, you fall with it, down into quiet, down into calm, down into sleep.